Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with Golden Opportunities Coaching. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is we discuss psychological coaching and emotional topics in relatable language, so that you can live the best life possible, and that's a good focus. I want to thank those of you who've helped us to reach the 300 subscriber mark. That's a good milestone. Would love to reach 400 by the end of August, so maybe you can help with that by sharing these audios on your social media with your email list or wherever else you can. Would appreciate that greatly. We're still trying to get to that 1,000 mark so we can give to some COVID relief funds and make a wish for kids and all sorts of other really good charitable contributions. But today we're going to talk about 9 or 10 things that are key causes of unhappiness. Easy for me to say, but anyway. So there's some really core belief systems that ultimately can contribute in a level of unhappiness. So unhappiness is very perverse within the Western society. We live in a culture that's very me-driven. We live in a culture that's very obsessed with achievement, and that can create a lot of problems. But there are about 9 or 10 things that I see when I work with people that if they're here in these mindsets, they will eventually become unhappy, and then unhappiness leads to frustration. Frustration can lead to depression. Depression leads to panic and a whole bunch of other things. So if these are things that you do, you might want to look at your life and figure out how to change these core behaviors that exist. Now, each of these behaviors are things that we can do for short spans of time without major impact. But when a behavior becomes a main focus or an obsession, that's when problems exist, because people get into trouble with their thought patterns and belief systems. So if you're too goal-driven, goals are wonderful. I love goals. Short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, I think everyone should have them. I think everyone should reassess them 3 to 4 times a year to make sure they're making progress towards the thing they're trying to accomplish. However, if you turn every day, every action, every thought, every interaction socially into a goal-driven mentality, you won't be living in the moment, you won't be present moment-minded, and in the end, you're going to be miserable. So what happens is there's a balance between having goals and enjoying the moment. So is what I'm doing in the moment working me towards my goal? Great. Am I enjoying the moment even though I'm working towards my goal? Better. Am I balanced between enjoying my life and working towards my goals? Best. That's the place you want to be as often as you can. Secondly, things are given to you too easily. So, we all have this fantasy, right? Well, nobody ever, always or never, and nobody ever all or nothing. So, we often have this fantasy that if somebody gave us our dream house, if somebody gave us our dream job, if somebody gave us a perfect relationship, if somebody gave us $1 million, life would be better. But here's the thing. History has shown through human nature study that when you're given too much and you haven't had to earn it and you haven't had to work towards it and you haven't had the goals set and then prioritize your time, you won't appreciate it nearly as much as if you worked for it. So, it's great to have help. It's necessary to have help. Social interaction is a huge part of and the need for connection is a huge part of human life, human existence. But at the end of the day, sooner or later, the achievement of a goal has to be self-motivated to be completely fulfilling. Now, you can obviously be fulfilled for a minute or a memory when people give you, your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, or a gift, but it's not going to sustain you. It's not sustainable to live a life where you're given everything you think you want, because then there's no personal achievement involved in your process. Here's a big one: holding grudges. People will not always follow your moral compass. People will not always see the world the way you do or behave in a way that you believe they should. The sooner you accept this, the easier your life's going to be. When you hold grudges over things that have been done to you that are wrong, be they in a relationship, be they from your family, be they for social issues, so many people are social justice warriors right now, realizing that they're one person and that they're not making a difference because they're doing it in anger instead of with a desire for things to change and a communication of community and cooperation, right? If you go into something and I'm angry and this is an injustice and and I'm going to get even and I'm going to fight for people, there is a place for righteous anger. But so few people understand that even righteous anger has to come down to a level of communication, cooperation, and peaceful protest. If you're holding grudges against people, if you're holding grudges against a community, if you're holding grudges against a situation, a family member, or the lack of opportunity in your life, you eventually will become unhappy because that energy of that grudge needs a place to go. It needs an outlook and an outlet in order to be used positively. You can use the energy of a grudge, as I am now, to turn things into something good, right? Part of the reason I want to use the good of this channel for charitable contribution is because I laid for 15 months in a nursing facility that completely neglected my and other people's care. And I would like to be able someday to help people in need so they don't have to go into facilities like that. If I am able to aid in the help of one person to keep them out of such an unfriendly, unkind thing, and it'd be a whole nother video for me to go into that I don't believe these facilities should need to exist if we were living in a completely loving world, but that's a different story for a different day. But regardless, the grudge I hold and the frustration I hold against being mistreated is being turned into a good thing. I'm helping where I can for people that are in facilities like that, when giving them supplies when I can. I'm making people aware of what happened with me and with others. I'm also going back to work to do the work that I'm called in my life to do, realizing that the more on point I am with my work, the more impact I can make, and the more likelihood there is that things can change in the future, if not in my generation, in future generations. If I stayed in the place of the anger of the grudge, and I didn't use it to move me forward, then that would be a waste of time, energy, and effort. Next one overlaps with it. So if your mindset is set to the past instead of the present moment, and notice I didn't say the future. It's great to think about the future. The future is a place where creating our ultimate dreams is possible because we can set those long-range goals that sometimes feel so big, so monumental that we'll never get there. But being present moment-minded is more valuable than being future-minded because the future is ever being shaped and created by the actions we take. So if we're too much focused on, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, and I hear this so much, especially from my generation and the generation, I guess, most recent to mine, a generation down from mine, younger than me. You know, I'll be happy when I get this job. I'll be happy when I finish my degree. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I have children. And it's like, no, you're missing it entirely. If you're not happy in the journey, you will not be happy in the receiving of your goal for more than a few days to a few months. And then you'll be right back where you started, thinking that there's something else outside of you that you have to pursue or earn in order to truly find happiness. Happiness is the moment. The opportunity is in the moment. Live each moment like it's unlimited because it is. And that's how you break away from unhappiness. When we focused on the past, what we're really focused on is the perception of injustice that we have, that something didn't go the way we planned it to. And no matter how much we focus on it, no matter how much energy we give it, it will not change because the past is unchangeable. So giving it that energy, giving it that time, giving it that effort is not valuable. So the next one is the relationship that human beings have with money. Okay, so a couple of things, and some of these things may be radical mindsets for some people. If you don't like what I have to say, please feel free to skip this section or to another video, or ignore what I'm saying and go and listen to, go and listen to your water drip. It doesn't matter, because some people don't believe this way, and that's okay. But your relationship with money will determine how successful you are. Meaning, if you believe that you are destined to be poor, you'll prove yourself right. If you believe that all work is hard, you'll prove yourself right. If you believe that you have to live in poverty, you will prove yourself right. And if you believe that the only way you can be happy even for a moment is to reach a certain financial goal, you will prove yourself right. Now, a healthy relationship with money is the realization that money is just a physical representation of reward for effort put into something. So I did this thing, I put effort towards this thing, I was given these symbols of paper that signify that for doing this thing, I can now go buy things. I can trade in commerce. But really, money has no value unless we give it to it. In other words, you can print, or the various governments of the world in the 195 countries we have in the world can print money all day long, but until there's value ascribed to it, it really doesn't have any. As in the dollar, the peso, the yen, and every other currency in the world could all collapse tomorrow, and they could all boom tomorrow, and it doesn't really change who a person is if it does these things. Does it create hardship if it crashes? Yes. Does it create benefit if it flourishes? Yes. But the truth of happiness is the ability to understand your ability to make and receive money, not in how much money you have. The next one is, if you're not in a loop, in what I call a positive feedback loop of giving. So I'm not talking necessarily about giving money, although that can be helpful for some people. If you have extra money to give and you feel the need or the desire to give in that way, that's great. But you can give advice. You can give your time. You can give physical goods that you no longer need. You can give encouragement. You can give in volunteer environments. But if you don't have a daily or at least weekly habit of giving, you will become unhappy, because we being human beings, human nature, since the dawn of time, crave community and the ability to make a difference, the ability to create positive influence and be part of positive influence. When we give that away, when we really focus on, well, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not enough to do this, or whatever the case is, or it'll never get better even if I do this one thing. You don't know that by giving to, I'll give an example. Say you give to Make-A-Wish, and it changes the heart of a parent who's about to lose their child, and they go on to start a charitable organization, all because they got to see their child happy one time. Your ripple effect of your one act of giving could change hundreds or thousands of lives. But don't do it because you're going to get credit for that. Do it because the power to co-create with people is accessed through the act of giving. So if you want to find more happiness in your life, find ways, however small they may be, to give every day. Next, no problems to solve. So the human mind is built on the premise of protection. What does that mean? The mind's main purpose, since we've been cave people, has been to protect us from danger. And so protection is linked with problem solving, isn't it? There is this issue, there is this potential threat, there is this problem. If I solve it, I will feel successful. If I solve it, I will have made a difference. If I solve it, something will have happened with my day that I can remember. But when you don't have problems to solve or problem-solving skills, you will become unhappy. Matter of fact, this is why people that do some of the most amazing things in the world, be they Olympic athletes, be they professional athletes, be they musicians, be they astronauts, whomever, no matter what they are and who they are. And there's my phone, so I got to get it. And I will be right back, folks. And then we look at other very important things that include but are not limited to other things that will make you frustrated or easily distracted. And another one is the easy distraction. If you cannot follow through on the things that matter to you, if you are a person who struggles with follow through in any level, sooner or later you will become unhappy, because lack of follow through comes down to one of two things. Either you have issues with focus, in which case it feels like nothing ever gets done, or the things you're focused on, you don't believe you deserve the right to be able to do them effectively and efficiently. And so there's this self-esteem issue, which is actually my next point, that ultimately shoots you in the foot about coming to a place of positivity in the long run. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean at the end of the day that you will never get anywhere in life if you easily become distracted, but you have to find a way, and this is all about chunking of your time, chunking of your focus and your energy, finding a way to, okay, I'm going to do something for 15 minutes. I'm going to do something for 10 minutes. If your attention span is 10-minute segments, then that's what your attention span is. If your attention span is 15-minute or quarter-hour segments, that's what your attention span is. Don't try to make yourself be the person who can study for 2 hours if that's not how your brain works. Or don't try and be the person who commits to practicing something or exercising for 60 minutes in a row if you just if your mind starts to wander, or you start to half-heartedly do it 20 minutes in. Figure out a way to give your all and your best to what you're doing consistently, and then move on to doing something else and come back to the things that are there. Another thing that's guaranteed to make you unhappy, and this is important, is low self-esteem. So the self-esteem movement is an interesting quandary for me as a coach and as someone who works with people's emotions, because self-esteem, especially in the last 40 years, the movement of self-esteem really started in the late 60s to early 70s, and probably the first 10 years of it was good. By the time we got to the early 80s, it was a problem, because it then got into entitlement and now has become, oh, well, I don't like how I feel, so therefore I'm not going to push through it. Instead, I'm going to complain about it or focus on the negativity of it. And then we have, in popular culture, that they're the snowflake generation or the snowflake mindset, where it's like nothing bad can happen to me and I feel badly all the time. Now, low self-esteem can also come as the victim for victims of abuse and neglect and all sorts of other things. Low self-esteem is a valuable thing. It's a real thing, but sometimes I think it's overstated. But here's the thing. The key word in that phrase, low self-esteem, is the word self. It has to come from within you. And so if you're looking outside of yourself to raise your self-esteem versus your public esteem or your social esteem, which is a totally different thing, then you're doing the self-esteem thing incorrectly, and you're going to be unhappy. If you need validation from others consistently, it's nice to get a compliment once in a while. We all like to be valued, or most of us like to be valued and appreciated and acknowledged. But if you need that almost every day or all day or whatever, eventually, you're going to become unhappy, because not everybody is going to take the time to see your value. Not everyone's looking close enough to know what your value is. And so, ultimately, that creates problems in and of itself. The last thing I want to touch on in this particular audio is taking life too seriously. So, I know this will sound weird to a lot of people, but life isn't serious until you make it that way. You choose what you focus on in every area of life. And so to some people, their responsibility to their family is the most serious thing in the world. And to other people, it's like, well, if I'm not happy, then it doesn't matter if I'm good to my family or not, because if I'm not happy, I can't be good to anybody. Some people, their career is the most serious thing in the world. Some people, their career is, that thing that is just there to make them money, to give them the opportunity to do things they enjoy. Sometimes um, your relationship, your primary romantic relationship, your friendships are the most serious thing in the world. And then to some people, it's like, people come and go, and it really doesn't matter. What you're choosing to make matter in your life, what you're taking seriously, and the success you're having with whatever you're taking seriously will directly relate to how happy you are. And so it's important to go, is what I'm focused on really something that's progressing? Is it something that is getting me where I need to be? Is getting me in a positive direction? Or am I focused on something that cannot lead me where I want to go? Am I focused on something that really I'm taking too seriously? I say to people all the time when they go through a breakup, wait a second, you're believing that he or she, this person, that person, is the only person that can give you whatever they gave you in that relationship. I'm not saying don't grieve it. I'm not saying don't have feelings. But what I'm saying is it logical at any level to think that in a world full of 7 billion people, this is the only person that can fill that need? Or that the job you have is the only job where you can show your skills? And so what happens is sometimes we box ourselves in by taking circumstances too seriously, and we guarantee ourselves we're going to be unhappy because when we take things too seriously, if something doesn't go according to the way we plan, if something is going to go to the way that we intend, we're going to become unhappy when our expectations of that thing or that focus or whatever it is aren't met. And so that creates a lot of problems for people. But till next time, I encourage you, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.